So times of turmoil are times of opportunity. So it's time for us to get moving. So let's look at what's coming 2021, and also ponder this: do the ends justify the means? Do the means justify the ends? Watch this week's episode to find out.
Hi, Brant Cooper here. I'm fortunate I get to travel around the world speaking with startup founders, investors, ecosystem developers. I've learned a lot in my travels. I've got some stories, and I have some thinking that I love to share. Welcome to Brant's Rant. 2021 off to a roaring start, huh, people? Wow. I'm actually excited about 2021, though. There's a lot of good stuff going on, and uncertainty means opportunity, and turmoil means opportunity too. I forget that part. Back in the startup days, I was head of product management for a startup that didn't have product management before I got there, and so just implementing a lot of just classic product management processes. Up to that point, sales people would literally walk into the cubes of the engineers and tell them what to write because supposedly a sales deal was dependent upon it. And we all know how that turns out, right? The engineer builds it, and then the customer, still doesn't buy. So anyway, we showed up to work one Monday morning after a long weekend, and the building had burned to the ground. It was a rubble, really extraordinary. And the founders really wondered whether they were going to survive. They really wondered whether they were going to be able to pick up the pieces. And, sort of personality quirks aside, what was interesting is that the two founders went off and, dealt with insurance and dealt with finding a new place and banks and finances and all the rest, and pretty much left the business to the business. First, I kind of sat back and was like, dang, what's going to happen? And then I realized that it was an opportunity, and not an opportunity where I could take advantage of other people, but an opportunity for me to do what I thought was the best to do. And so, very quickly, I kind of took over product vision and went out with salespeople on calls and learned from customers and developed really this enterprise strategy. And went after partnerships and I ended up being promoted from this director of product management to VP of corporate strategy based upon the work that I did during that time when the founders were off trying to save the business. And it was my work really with the VP of sales and with the VP of engineering. The three of us were the ones that really got the company moving, to be honest. And, not long after 9/11 struck. And so sort of one thing after another, though the latter being obviously way more tragic. But then the war followed, and then recession, and we thrived during that period. And I think it was a lot of things kind of came together. But I guess my point really is that we have to look at, in times of turmoil, are also times of opportunity. And one of the reasons why is because the people that are sort of in control prior or even during the turmoil, they're trying to get things back to the way they were before. And so the opportunity is created when we need to do something different. And that's where we are right now. We need to do things differently. The government response to COVID is not just a Trump problem. This is, larger issues here. Corporate response to the pandemic Many companies did really well, but way many more companies suffered. And the imbalance in our economic system also was exacerbated by the pandemic. So the redistribution of wealth from the poor and middle class and most of us to the very wealthy was extraordinary. And it's also interesting to see that those on the very extreme wealth side of it don't really think that's a problem. I mean, they kind of hand waving, yeah, it's a problem, but they're not really willing to do anything to the system to change the system. So the fact that wealthy are going to be more philanthropic is not what we need to settle for. That is what I was saying. That is those people that were sort of in power before, in charge. We go through this period of turmoil, and they want to put it back to the way it was. And it's really up to the rest of us to say, no, we can redesign this in a way that creates the world that we want to live in. And that's really the bottom line. It's not this stuff about socialists versus capitalists versus redistribution of wealth. It's interesting because you've got these people who sorely believe that the means justify the ends. And so you've maybe heard me talk before about this idea of the right of individuals to create contracts, right? And so that's, you sort of get the feeling that it's two people sitting across the table and they've got equal power to negotiate a contract. And a good contract is when both of them are happy and both of them are also a little bit disappointed because they didn't get everything that they got. That's a good outcome. That's a system that's in equilibrium, right? And so there's sort of this belief among some of my favorite character, the Silicon Valley neo-libertarian tech bro, who believes that all things are like equal power. So employees that are negotiating for a job, that's a contract between two individuals of equal power. And so the people who are about the means justify the ends believe that that's the core principle that they have to maintain, is that those two people have equal power, and therefore all laws that stem from that, labor laws and employment laws and all those type of things, need to reflect that particular belief, that principle that everybody's got this equal value, and of course, or equal power. And of course, they don't have equal power. The employee is trying to survive, needs a job in order to eat, whereas the employer can choose among all these different employees. So they're not of equal power. And so rather than us tinkering on the outcomes of that, welfare or these other things that sort of pay the employee, those things are okay, but they don't work very well, and they're on the margin, and that's where they get resistance based upon political ideologies and the belief in these principles. What's better is to go back into the system and tweak the system so that when you get to the point of negotiation, the power is more equal. And so that's how we change the equilibrium of the system so that the powers are better balanced. So in the end, the negotiation is more equal, and then again, both sides are a little bit happy and a little bit disappointed, and so that's really what we want to create. And so it isn't about sticking to the means; it's about what are the ends? What are the ends that we desire? Now, there's the flip side too, right? There's the flip side is that the ends justify the means. And that's not necessarily true either, right? So, we can dream about a utopia, and we can dream about, everybody being equal and wealth being completely distributed equally. And that ends up being, sort of a pipe dream or utopian, and gets away from really what motivates us as individuals. And so, communism was trying to be that, and it's an abject failure. Make no mistake about it. Socialism is a failure. It doesn't work. It's not part of how we as human beings are motivated and how we interact with each other. From the very beginning, we traded, right? And so it's those are the two extremes. Forgetting the political ideologies, there's this idea that we must the means are what we need to like make sure that those are never touched, and then there's the other people, it's the ends. We need to be able to do anything in order to get to the ends. And both of those are extremes. And so there's a balance. And so I think what we want to do is imagine what we think society ought to be, forgetting about the individual behaviors and the players. What does a society look like that we want to live in? What's the world that we want to live in? And then we step back from that. And as participants in democracy, for example, we get to choose those representatives that make the laws that establish an equilibrium where the outcome is our best guess at that, or the outcome of the balance of the system is what we desire. So yeah, boy, guess this did turn into sort of a rant. Hey, thanks for listening to Brant's Rant. If we're choosing capitalism here as a society, then let's make it work for a better world. If you'd like to join me as we redefine capitalism for the 21st century, go to beatcoop.co/D4A. Also, if you have a pressing issue that you're facing in your innovation group, your product group, your startup, and want to join me on video, see the link below. Subscribe, like, see you next time.